Hey everyone, I'm back and today we're going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake. And this movie came out in 2010 and stars Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger, I think I said his name right, and Rooney Mara. And I thought this movie was terrible. I really hated this movie. I was entertained throughout. I wasn't really bored for the most part. There were parts that were unintentionally funny. There was some fun violence, and that was about it. Nothing about this movie was scary. It had so much of a reliance on jump scares and Freddy Krueger being scary, and like him being on screen is scary, but it doesn't work nearly as well as the original did. And while I don't think the original is a perfect movie, it's certainly much better than this movie. And Rooney Mara and Jackie Earle Haley, they were fine in the movie, but they were not really given much to work with. And I should probably mention that Michael Bay produced this movie. It's one of these Michael Bay produced horror movies. And he produced a few others. He produced the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003 and the Friday the 13th remake from 2009. I saw the Friday the 13th remake like a long time ago that I just don't remember anything about it. So I can't really comment on its quality, but but this movie was just particularly bad to me, and that might have to do with the fact that it's a remake of a movie that I love. And when I was younger, it was my favorite horror movie, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought that movie was terrifying, and it really scared me, and there are parts that are still genuinely scary to this day from that movie, and there's a lot about it that works so well, and it builds up tension really well. And in this movie, it's just anything you would expect out of any other horror movie. Like, it's you hear music, you hear sounds, and then the sound slowly drowns out until eventually a jump scare is presented. And it's not very effective, and I would really like to mention the music in this movie. It was really bad. It was just indistinguishable from any other horror movie, and the original movie has amazing music, and it's part of what made the original so successful, is that the music was great, and it was creepy, and it built up suspense, and it was also kind of like giving you like an imagination of like, oh, what's gonna happen, and you don't know what's going to happen. And even in the scenes where it does have music, it doesn't ruin them because the music is playing. If anything, it helps out the scene that music is playing, like for intense scenes that are happening in the original. And in this movie, that doesn't happen. Music is playing, but it's just like temp music. It's like I don't even remember it. It's just so forgettable. While I did enjoy some of the gore in the movie, and this movie isn't really that gory, I'm just saying that there is some blood in this movie. While I did enjoy it, when it was using CGI at any point in this movie, it looked pretty bad, or just noticeably dated, and that really did not help out my experience. And the original movie does not really feel dated for the most part, and most of what's going on, like effects-wise, is really great and really well handled. And for this movie, I just don't know what happened. Like, they just didn't understand what made the original work so well, and there are plenty of fan-servicey moments in this movie that just don't add anything to the movie, and they're literally just thrown in there just to say, hey, we recognize the original. You remember the original movie, right? Like the hand coming out of the bathtub, or like Tina being dragged across the floor. And like there's a couple moments like that, and all I was thinking to myself was, why are you doing these things? You're kind of doing your own thing with the story. And going into the story of the movie, and I'm going to compare this to the original because it's impossible not to, mostly because the original is so much better in pretty much every way. In the original, they don't explain Freddy Krueger too much to the point where he's not really scary. But in this movie, they tell you how he gets power, and it's like he has power because people remember him, and that was pretty much an idea that was explored in Freddy vs. Jason. Like, if you don't remember Freddy Krueger, then you won't have any power. And I didn't like that in that movie, and I don't like it in this movie. It just makes things not scary to me. And also, something that I found kind of strange about this movie is that it's kind of a mystery film where our characters are trying to discover who Freddy Krueger is and what he wants, and they have to discover a whole bunch of things throughout the movie, and it's kind of like a detective movie in ways, or a detective story to some extent, and I found that to be a little weird, and also I just don't feel as though it helped out the movie either. And in the first movie, while it didn't really have a story, at the very least, I had no idea what was going to happen, and sure, you can predict what's going to happen in certain scenes, like, oh, this character is going to die, or that character is going to die. In this movie, it's just so obvious how things are going to turn out. And even the moments that are predictable in the original, the way it's handled is probably the best way that they could have handled it. Or at least for the most part, aside from, like, the third act. But I already talked about the original, so if you want to hear me talk about that movie more, then go check that video out. But this movie just doesn't work. It's pretty broken at its core, and there's barely anything to like about it, and it's not very memorable. The only really entertaining things in the movie are just when it's funny bad. And if you're looking for a funny bad experience, this isn't even a great movie to watch because the funny bad moments are pretty minimal. So in the end, A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, it sucks. Don't watch it. I hate it. It takes everything that was good about the original and just ruins it. And there's plenty more to talk about in a spoiler-filled review. And as much as I would like to do that, I want to keep this a spoiler-free review. So that's why I can't talk about this movie any longer, because otherwise I'm just going to get into spoilers, because there's so many things that I just want to talk about, but I'm going to hold back and not talk about them. So don't watch this movie, stay far away from it. And with all that being said, I'm going to give A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, a 2 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, and my social media links. They will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Gattaca. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.